seat. Akash, we've just said some incredible things about who God is. Did you grow up knowing that and believing that all your life?
No.
Okay, can you share with us what changed
Yeah, sure.
and why?
So if you haven't heard, my name is Cash. Some people call me Cash Money. Let me share with you guys the faith journey that I've had to get here. So as a child, I was against the idea that God existed. I thought that all the religious stuff is nonsense. I didn't understand how religion worked. I thought it had restricted my freedom because you have to follow these rules of religion. And nevertheless, still my parents, who are Hindu, still decided to send me to a Christian school to learn good morals, hoping that I would become a better person. When I was in year 7, my mum became very sick. She had developed essentially blood poisoning and had a 1 in 100 chance of living. People kept saying that she was in their prayers, but this actually infuriated me. It was preventing believing that God is real. Why would God let this happen and allow all the suffering to continue? I questioned God, and yeah, I didn't get an answer, nor was I really expecting an answer. My mum managed to get better, thankfully, but this bothered me. Sorry, Mum, no hard feelings, let me explain. I just purely wasn't sure whether those were answers to prayers or whether I really lucked out. From that time onwards, my life took a downward turn as I pursued somewhat fame in school and to be popular and obsessed with girls kind of thing. When growing up, my grades went from A's to C's, and my friendships and character deteriorated into this crude person and extremely horrible, to be quite honest. For example, I thought that people were laughing with me, they were laughing at me, and I made a fool of myself, which ironically is what I thought people liked. Really, I just wanted to feel loved and accepted by people and wanted satisfaction. Eventually, I found out that not only did my friends hate it, but so did my parents, to the point of my character becoming distastefully unrecognizable. Completely devastated by that kind of news, I had to do something. And then Jesus revealed himself, not in the way that you're thinking. See, I saw Jesus at that time as a moral teacher that everyone loved. Still motivated to be becoming popular and pursue the girls at school, I decided that if everyone really likes this Jesus guy, I should be more like him to become popular. Time went on and yeah, it kind of worked, but only superficially. People did begin to like me, but it didn't satisfy me the way that I craved it to be, and ultimately it didn't work. I still couldn't believe whether any God existed, or was real, or Jesus was just a moral story. Seeing my mum become better and then not finding satisfaction in things that I expected to satisfy me forced me to think about other barriers that I had to believe in God. Science versus religion, and through a constant debate over year 9 between me and someone who became Dux of Science, evident to me that God must be real. I reasoned that out. And I did a few other barriers as well, namely intellectual and cultural barriers that I faced, which I won't go into extensive detail right now because there was a lot. But from a Hindu background growing up, I had to know, is this story just another cultural fable or tale that I can add it to the list of many others that are in Hinduism? And I went down that rabbit hole, and this was fascinating and challenging, exploring archaeology, history, not just for Christianity, but for the other major world religions. And all of it surprisingly, kept pointing to the cross, which meant more investigations and more skepticism to why this is. And despite many trials, tests, investigations, probing, researching, the evidence held up after all my barriers that I had. And it was to my surprise. And my mind seemed satisfied, but my heart seemed a bit restless. And as I began to read the Bible, I realized something terrifying. That I had set up so many barriers to God, I had put God under the microscope. It's only fair that God puts me under that microscope. How would I account for it in the same way that God has been able to hold up to all the challenges that I put? Jesus warns in Matthew chapter 12, verse 86, "But I tell you that everyone will have to give account on the day of judgment for every empty word that they have spoken." Ooh, how would I account for my rebellion against God? Jesus was then no longer a moral teacher to me. In fact, became my savior. As it says in Colossians chapter 1, verse 22, "But now he has reconciled you by Christ's physical body through death to present you holy in his sight, without blemish and free from accusation. Died on the cross for me to present me holy and blameless to God our Father. And through his grace, God's riches at Christ's expense, I found my true satisfaction in life in Jesus, which I couldn't find in worldly things. And just by following Jesus' teaching, it wasn't enough. And so, nervously, but rationally confident, halfway through year 11, I decided to become a Christian.
That's pretty exciting. That's a pretty exciting story. Now, that was you're not just out of year 11. That was a couple of weeks ago, isn't it?
Yeah. A couple of months.
A couple of months ago. Okay, you're a fast mover. Okay, so God did bring you on a fairly big trajectory to that point. Really, what has changed in your world now that you've talked about Jesus actually fixing your problem of sin? I think wasn't exactly the words you used, but that's now what's changed in you since then? Because that was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Let me continue on the story of what happened as I decided to give my life to Christ in halfway through year 11. Because giving my life to Jesus was an easier said than done. It wasn't just an intellectual decision. It actually began a war at home. In year 12, I watched the cost of this decision unfold. Initially, when I shared this decision to follow Christ with my father, he said I had 24 hours to pack my bags and leave the house. Thankfully, at the time, my mum did not allow that to happen, saying it's just a phase. The joke's on you now. But the war and turmoil began, both study-wise, as year 12 can be hectic, but also the home life as well. And towards the end of the year, as things wrap up and we get to celebrate the school with formal, he stops the car along the way and prevents me from attending formal, saying this is because I'm a Christian, still doing this thing. Mum, thanks again, stepped in and reasoned for me to go to formal. But the tension still remained from that moment onward. And a couple of years later, after my parents had separated, I had to drop my mum off to the airport to visit some family. And he picked me up from the airport. And on the car ride home, he challenged my decision to remain Christian, to be a Christian. He explained that I would no longer sit at the family table. And finally, he disowned me as his son. Devastated by such loss, my mum reassured me that 3 days later, he would come around. Okay, whatever. To my surprise, he did. He did come around. He said he would become a Christian, but he bargained that he would just add Jesus to the other pantheon of gods that are in Hinduism. And I told him that Jesus says to have no other gods but him, that he is to have a full heart. And he said, that's so close-minded and re-disowned me a second time. And so I learnt, painfully, that following Jesus might cost me my earthly family. And that verse in Matthew 19:29, if you haven't read it or remember it, and everyone who's left houses or brothers or sisters or father or mother or wife or children or fields for my sake will receive 100 times as much and will inherit eternal life. I also, at the time, wasn't sure where Mum was with it all. At least she certainly wasn't antagonistic, thankfully. But at the time, quite wayward, lost, trying to find hope, sometimes investigating Catholicism, sometimes New Age, spiritual ideas and concepts. But every time, no idea what was going on. My hope was running dry, and I was chronically heartbroken that I thought I had lost my family, either completely or they had just been lost and wayward. And unbeknownst to me, God is working in this silence. One day, I remember this day actually, I tried rock climbing with Stephanie for the first time. My mum called me. She said, "I want to be baptized. Get this arranged." In complete shock, I went into theology mode, explaining that baptism doesn't save you. It's only Jesus does. And she kept saying she knew. And I kept re-explaining that baptism doesn't save you, Jesus does. And then afterwards, I kind of wrapped my head around it, how awesome this news is. I asked her then, I said, "Mum, which one of my apologetics, arguments, or words that I have said has convinced you? Was it history? Was it science? Was it logic?" Because over that period of time, I'd been constantly trying to say something, trying to discuss it, present arguments. She responded with some beautiful words. "Akash, none of your words helped me. None of your words helped me become a Christian. It was your character that spoke volumes. That showed me Christ." Oof. So, Rick, you asked me what has changed. Well, I didn't just find a religion. I found a person who is worth losing everything for and who has given me more than I can ask. I had tried to be moral, to be popular, failed. But when I surrendered my life to Jesus, he has changed my character for real, no cap. Do you guys remember I said earlier on when I put God under that microscope? I feel like ironically, my mum put me under that microscope. And because Jesus Christ has changed me, she saw him. So I thank Jesus for letting me experience such grace. I also pray that my story might make you guys reflect on what barriers you may have had or have to making Jesus the center of your life.
Thanks, mate.